So we'll start our class on Nectar of Devotion with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to an Nectar of Devotion overview class. So yesterday we discussed about the various quotations of Srila Rupa Goswami on how devotional service surpasses the bliss of impersonal liberation, moksha labhutakrit. And Srila Rupa Goswami quoted from so many places in the Srimad Bhagavatam and the scriptures, proving that a devotee is interested only in service and is not interested in liberation, not even liberation of being with the Lord and having the same opulences as the Lord. Devotee is interested only in service. Vinamat sevanam janaha. As it is said by Kapiladev, Salukya Sarishti Samipya Sarupya Ekatvam Diyamanam na grihanti vinamat sevanam janaha. So devotee is interested only in devotional service. And after quoting so many verses from Srimad Bhagavatam and the scriptures, Srila Rupa Goswami then describes that devotees of Vrindavan, they are the topmost of all the devotees because they are attracted to the suprememost form of Krishna. And we saw yesterday how that Krishna excels even Vishnu incarnations and Lord Shiva. And we saw how Krishna has 64 qualities, Lord Vishnu has 60 qualities, Lord Shiva has 55 qualities, and all of us till the level of Brahmaji, we have 50 qualities. And Lord Krishna has 4 qualities which Lord Vishnu does not have. That is Venu Madhuri, Rupa Madhuri, Leela Madhuri, and Prema Madhuri. And that's how Lord Vishnu excels. And with that, we ended the class yesterday, discussion yesterday. So now today we'll discuss the 5th chapter. And the 5th chapter is entitled by Srila Prabhupada as the purity of devotional service. And in this, Srila Prabhupada is describing how pure devotional service is perfectly self-sufficient and independent. So all the other processes of jnana, ashtanga, and karma, they depend on some of the qualifications of the practitioner. For example, to practice Jnana Yoga, a devotee requires a person who is Jnana Yogi, who requires a peaceful, renounced disposition and highly developed intellect. Intellectually, he should be very advanced. He should be peaceful and renounced from any of the bodily material attachments. That is a requirement for Jnana Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga also demands very rigid requirements. Very strict regulations are mentioned about Ashtanga Yogi, and only a sannyasi can even start to adopt that process. So it is so very difficult. First, the person has to leave his family. Shaudeshe pratisthapya sthiramasanam atmanah nati utritam nati nicham chaila jina kushotram. Bhagavad Gita describes. He has to go to the forest and stay in a secluded place practice celibacy. So all these things are not possible for a person who is living in the city like Mumbai. In Kali Yuga, not possible. And then Karmakand. Karmakand is also dependent on so many external circumstances. A yajna has to be performed at a particular place, at a particular time. The person who is performing that ceremony of yajna should be qualified. He should be learned. He should be flawless. All the ingredients which are to be used in the yajna, they have to be pure. The place has to be pure. So all these so many requirements are there. And in Kali Yuga, none of these are available. No one knows even there are very few people who even know the mantras which are chanted in a particular sacrifice. One of our devotees was telling, he was one of the sannyasis, very senior sannyasi in ISKCON. He was saying that, earlier he was married and then he took sannyas. So once he was seeing his marriage video, and in that video he saw that the brahmana who was uh, performing the marriage, he was chanting the sannyas mantras instead of vivaha mantra. So that is how people are completely unaware of the reality, and the devotees and the priests who are performing the yajna, they are also completely unaware. They are just interested in making more and more money. So all this jnana, ashtanga and karma kanda, they are not possible in current age, because everybody has so much of the requirements which none of the people of this world can fulfill. But in contrast to this, bhakti yoga is completely pure. Bhakti yoga does not depend on any of the external prerequisites, and that's why Srila Prabhupada entitles this chapter as the purity of devotional service. And in this chapter, Rupa Goswami describes that bhakti does not depend on the birth, does not depend on rituals of purification, and does not depend on the varnashram dharma. So that is the whole essence of this whole chapter. So therefore, in this chapter, Rupa Goswami states that, Srila Prabhupada writes, that devotional service is transcendental to all material qualifications and is not limited to any country, class, society, or circumstance. And then he quotes a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam where it is described that devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. So which is that verse? That is this verse. Now, Srila Prabhupada describes about how bhakti is not dependent on birth. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhukshaje ahetukya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. So Bhagavatam describes that devotional service is transcendental. Paro dharma. There is para dharma and apara dharma. Apara dharma means dharma of this world, our varnashram dharma. So bhakti is apara dharma. It is beyond this varnashram. It is transcendental and has no cause, ahetuki and apratihata. It cannot be checked by any material circumstance. Apratihata means it is uninterrupted. It cannot be checked by any of the material circumstances. It is open for all, you know. Yes, this is a photo of Prahlad Maharaj teaching all his classmates. Because why I put this is Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of demons. You know? He was, but in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Praladas chapi daityanam. I am Prahlad amongst the Daityas, because Prahlad was the foremost of the devotees. He is one of the Mahajana. Swayambhu Narada Sambhu Kumara Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapilo Manu Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Bali Vaiyasaki Vayam. These are the 12 Mahajans. So one of them is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was born in a demoniac family, but the birth does not matter. He was a pure devotee to such an extent that he attracted Supreme Lord himself. When Hiranyakashipu, he asked Prahlad that, where is your God? You are saying God is everywhere. Where is your God? Is he in this pillar? Prahlad Maharaj said, yes, he is there in this pillar. So Acharyas, they describe that as soon as Prahlad Maharaj said that Lord is there in the pillar, Narasimhadev was waiting, and he entered that pillar. just to prove the words of his devotee. Satyam vidhatum nijabhritya bhashitam vyaptam cha bhuteshu akhileshu chatmani adrishyatat atyadbhutam rupam udvahan stambhe sabhayam namrigam namanusham. Satyam vidhatum, to prove the words of his devotee true. Nij Bhritya Bhashitam. Prahlad Maharaj was such a great devotee. Supreme Lord was attracted by the devotion of Prahlad. So therefore, bhakti does not depend on birth. Anybody in any circumstance, in any family, maybe he may be born, he is eligible to practice bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada, he describes how Saraswati Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was very strong, because when he was teaching, when he was preaching the message of Krishna consciousness, there were so many caste brahmanas who were opposing, because Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was giving Brahman initiation even to the Shudras, and all the caste brahmanas, they were really opposing. So therefore, based on this principle, Srila Prabhupada writes that Rupa Goswami specifically mentions herein that every man has the birthright to accept devotional service and to become Krishna conscious. So the word used by Srila Rupa Goswami is Nrimatrasya Adhikarita. What is the adhikar to practice bhakti? Only qualification is he should be a human. Nrimatra. Nri means human. Any human can perform bhakti in whatever circumstance he may be. So the birth does not uh, make one qualified or unqualified to practice bhakti. So therefore, Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Devotion that this our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on the above mentioned proposition of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. What is the proposition? Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur completely smashed the idea, that bhakti, because Nityananda, there was one caste of Brahmanas who were saying, no, we are the only one who can give Brahman Diksha. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no, if somebody is a devotee of the Lord, he can become a Brahman, he can initiate. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, on the authority of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we are claiming members from all the sections of Western countries. And he says that the so-called Brahmanas, so there were so many Brahmanas who were opposing what Prabhupada was doing. Just like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was opposed, Srila Prabhupada was also opposed by so many of the caste Brahmanas of India. When they saw that this Abhay Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is giving Brahmana Diksha even to the Shudras, Malichas and Yavanas, and they were very much opposed to Prabhupada. One person, he went to Prabhupada and said, Swamiji, your disciples, they are very nice, but their pronunciation is not good. They wanted to just make fun of the disciples of Prabhupada. That your disciples, they are chanting mantras, but their pronunciation is not good. Prabhupada said their pronunciation is not good, but their renunciation is best. They have left everything, just hearing the instructions, just hearing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they have given up everything. And just see yourself. You are completely engrossed in sense gratification. You are just practicing all this spirituality for the name's sake. So therefore, Prabhupada was very much against this caste system. And Prabhupada quotes that there is a Nityananda Vamsha. Nityananda Vamsha means there are some section of people who claim that they are descendants of Nityananda Prabhu, and and therefore we are qualified to preach this message of Krishna consciousness. So Bhakti Srila Prabhupada is very heavy on those type of people, and therefore we should know that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was a revolutionary. He completely changed so many of the social ideologies which were existing at his time. And therefore, he completely perfectly established that anybody can practice bhakti. And then Srila Prabhupada writes that in Skanda Puran, there is a discussion. There is a story which is described where the story of King Mayur Dhwaj is described. So there was a king called King Mayur Dhwaj, and he was such a great devotee of the Lord that in his kingdom, even the Shudras, even the people who were less than Shudras, they were also initiated in a Vaishnav cult. So that is the glory of devotional service. Anybody can practice bhakti. And these devotees who were Shudras by birth, they would also wear tilak, they would also wear kanthimala and all the Vaishnava dress, and they would look like Vaikuntha people. So therefore, anybody can practice bhakti. And in one of the verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada writes in the purport one quotation by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he says, Brahmananam sahasrebhya satrayaji vishishyate, satrayaji sahasrebhya sarva vedanta paraga, sarva vedanta vitkotya vishnu bhakta vishishyate, vaishnavanam sahasrebhya ekantyeko vishishyate. Brahmananam sahasrebhya, of thousands of Brahmanas, satrayaji vishishyate, one who can perform yajna is the best. Satrayaji sahasrebhya, of the thousands of those who can perform yajna, one who knows Vedanta, Sarva Vedanta Paraga, he is the best. And out of thousands who can perform, who knows Vedanta, Sarva Vedanta with Kotya Vishnu Bhakta Vishishyate, devotee of Lord Vishnu is the best. And Vaishnavanam Sahasrebhya Ekantyeko Vishishyate, even amongst the devotees of Vishnu, devotee of Krishna is the supreme. He is the foremost. So that is described in the scriptures. And then Prabhupada writes that he quotes the Sanatana Goswami's Hari Bhakti Vilas. So in Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatana Goswami gives an example. He says that just like a metal known as bell metal, it can be transformed into gold by mixing with mercury. Nowadays, this information is missing. Nobody knows how this happens, but earlier they would have this knowledge also. So similarly, a bona fide spiritual master under the guidance of authorities can transform anyone into a Vaishnava. So that is a glory of Vaishnava. He is beyond any of the birth and other external limitations. And then Prabhupada writes, what is the duty of a qualified practitioner? One who has properly taken initiation in the Sampradaya. Prabhupada is very strongly says he should not just accept Diksha for the namesake. Initiation means beginning. Sometimes people think initiation means the end. अब तो दीक्षा हो गई है, अब तो सब मेरा कल्याण तो हो ही गया, मैं तो भगवत धाम जा ही रहा हूँ. No. Initiation means that is the beginning of the process of devotional service. And Prabhupada writes we have to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. And if somebody is not following the rules and regulations after getting initiated, then he will again fall down. So therefore, Prabhupada writes that is the beginning. Initiation is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. So sometimes devotees, they get excited about getting names in initiation. Oh, what will be my name? So there was one devotee. His name was given by Prabhupada as Hamsa Duta Adhikari. So he wanted to know who is this Hamsa Duta. So he went to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, who is this Hamsa Duta? So Prabhupada said, you. No, Prabhupada, but what is the meaning of this Hamsa Duta? Prabhupada said, you find out. And then Prabhupada said, the Das is more important. The name does not matter much. So therefore, after getting initiation, the actual commitment of the spiritual life begins. So therefore, one should not feel getting initiation means over. Sab ho gaya. Initiation means beginning of the spiritual life, committed. It is a formal connection. And it does not mean that those who are not initiated, they cannot advance. But by getting connected to the parampara, that is the formal way of connecting to the parampara and making our commitment all the more strong. So therefore, we should know that bhakti does not depend on birth. Anyone can perform bhakti. One time, there was a devotee in Vrindavan, and he went to one of the temples in Vrindavan. And the Goswami, the priest of the temple, he asked, "Oh, you are devotee of Krishna, you are from America, very nice, very nice. You keep worshipping Krishna, and the next life you will take a chance, you will get a chance to take birth in the family of Goswamis." So this person became happy. Oh, so he came to Prabhupada and said, "Prabhupada, this Goswami told me this." So Prabhupada became angry and he said, "Just go and tell him that you keep on worshipping your deities in Vrindavan. Next life you will get a chance to become a hippie in America and join Hare Krishna movement." So Prabhupada was very strong in protecting his devotees. So this was the birth first. Second is, devotional service is not dependent on rituals of purification. So there he quotes one verse which describes that a person who is qualified for bhakti is at fault for failing to perform all the important angas of bhakti. For example, if a devotional practitioner, if a bhakta is not able to practice all the limbs of bhakti, all the regulations of bhakti, he'll be at fault. But he is not at the fault of failing to perform his duties of varnashram. So the essence is, a devotee may not be follow his worldly occupational duties. That will not implicate him, because bhakti is so powerful. If somebody is practicing bhakti with all attention, all seriousness, he will completely become purified. He will become free from all the faults of not following his varnashram duties. So that is described in the scriptures. And therefore, Prabhupada writes, Rupa Goswami also says that if one is regularly discharging devotional service, there will be no question of his fall down. And even if one circumstantially falls down, Vaishnava does not have to do anything else to atone. Bhuma uskhalit padanam bhuma veva avalambanam tvai jata paradhanam tameva sharanam prabho. Just like a person who has fallen on the ground, he takes shelter of the same ground to get up. Similarly, if a devotee is not able to follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, what he has to do? He has to just continue practicing the rules and regulations without getting disturbed. So we have to take shelter of devotional service again and get up. The story of Subuddhi Rai, which comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Subuddhi Rai, he was a devotee in Bengal, but somehow the Muslim king there, he put some his jhuta remnants of his water, he sprinkled on him and he became outcast. That was the culture that time. That was the way people would behave. That if somebody is touched by malicha, and if somebody is touched by the remnants of malicha, he also becomes malicha. So then, and so all the Vaishnava community, all the Brahman community, he was a Brahmana. They rejected him. And then he went to so many of the Brahmana. He said, I want to purify myself. How can I purify? Somebody said, you cannot be purified. You commit suicide, you die, you jump in Ganga, you die. Next birth, you will get a chance to become a pure Brahmana. Somebody said, you eat a boiling hot ghee. That means you die. Then he was very sad. He went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, don't worry, you go to Vrindavan, you practice devotional service there. So many of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Bengali Vaishnavas, they go to Navadvip, they go to Vrindavan. You serve them, and that is a process of purification. So even if somebody is falling from the principles of devotional service, he does not have to do anything else. Devotional service can purify anything and everything. So therefore we should have faith. So therefore Prabhupada writes that the process of jnana, karma, jnana and bhakti, they can just elevate one to the platform of spiritual consciousness. But from that spiritual consciousness to go ahead, you have to take shelter of bhakti only. And even if somebody is not taking shelter of this karma, jnana or ashtanga, he can directly get elevated to spiritual consciousness by the practice of bhakti. So bhakti is not dependent on karma, jnana and ashtanga. On the contrary, all the other limbs are dependent on bhakti for their practice. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, he simply has to execute the rules and regulations for discharging devotional service. And this is sufficient for his reinstatement. So even if somebody is fallen, he will be again reestablished in his proper position. As Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Apichet suduracharo bhajate ma mananyabha sadhur eva samantavyah samyak vevasito hisaha. So even if somebody is most fallen, most sinful person, bhajate, if he continues practice of bhakti, very soon he will become sadhu again. This is a mystery of Vaishnava cult, Prabhupada writes. So then Rupa Goswami quotes another verse from 11th canto, where it is described that the persons who are already elevated in discharging devotional service will never again take shelter of the process of karma or jnana. So therefore, bhakti is not dependent on karma and jnana. Whoever is practicing bhakti, he has performed, it is said that he has performed all these karma, jnana, ashtanga in the previous lives. So that is what is described about rituals of purification. And then after describing this, Srila Rupa Goswami, he describes about the principles of Varnashram Dharma. How bhakti is not dependent on the principles of Varnashram Dharma also. So there, Prabhupada quotes, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes this verse from first canto. Tyaktva swadharmam charanambujam hare bhajan pakvo athapate tato yadhi yatra ko va abhadram abhudamushyakim ko vartha aptam abhajatam swadharmatah. So this is a very beautiful verse. This is an instruction given by Narad Muni to Vyasadeva. So in this verse, Narad Muni is saying, Tyaktva swadharmam. Swadharma means varnashram duties. If someone gives up his varnashram duties, occupational duties, and charanam bhujam harer bhajan, what is he doing? He is working in Krishna consciousness. He is serving the Supreme Lord's lotus feet. But apakwa, he is not completely mature in the practice of bhakti. So what happens? He falls down. He falls down because he is not a mature devotee. Yatra kvava abhadram. Narad Muni is saying, there is no loss. There is no inauspiciousness in that. But if somebody is practicing his varnashram system properly, is not practicing bhakti, what is the gain? There is no gain, because the purpose of varnashram is to serve Krishna. Varnashram acharvata purushena parahpuman Vishnu aradhyate pantha na anyat tattosha karanam. So therefore, devotional service is sufficient in itself. So therefore, when a devotee, he commits mistake, he may not be able to follow the rules and regulations of varnashram system. Just by the practice of intense devotional service, he becomes purified. And Shukdev Goswami gives an example. Just like in the winter season, there is fog covering every part of every direction. When the sun rises, all the fog is completely dissipated. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayanaha agham dhanvanti kartsnena niharam iva bhaskara. Kechit kevalya, only by the intense devotional service unto Lord Vasudeva. Agham means everybody of us, we have so many of the sinful tendencies, so many of the anarthas, so many of the conditionings, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, these are there in everyone. Everything gets purified from root. Just like when the sun rises, the fog completely gets dissipated. So Prabhupada quotes in the purport another verse which is not given by Rupa Goswami. He quotes a verse from 5th canto where Rishabdev is saying that people who are engaged in fruitive activity, they again and again take birth and die until they develop loving devotional service unto Lord Vasudeva. Evam manah karma vashah prayumte avidyayatmanyupadhiyamane pritirna yavan mayi vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tavat. So evam manah karma vasha, till the time mind is absorbed in desire for sense gratification. Why? From where the desire for sense gratification comes? Avidyaya, because of ignorance. We think I am enjoyer, I can enjoy this world. That's why this desires are coming. And so, what is the result? Namuchyate deha yoga. Dehi yoga means, so Krishna is calling, Rishabh Dev is calling deha yoga. There is karma yoga, jnana yoga. So Krishna is calling dehi yoga. Dehi yoga means getting birth and dying. So this is a process, this cycle. He cannot leave this cycle of taking birth and death. Only one who has developed love, pritirna yavan maiva sudeve. Only one who has developed love for Krishna can become free himself, can free himself from this cycle of birth and death. So therefore, simple process of hearing about Krishna can relieve us from the cycle of birth and death. So bhakti is simple, but it is not easy. So as Prabhupada would say, why it is simple? What we have to do, we don't have to go to forest. We don't have to do tapasya, severe tapasya, standing on one leg or hand raised, not eating anything. No, bhakti is simple. Eating, dancing, chanting, dancing and feasting. Full sense gratification is going on. But it is not easy because we have to do the same thing every day. Same thing again and again. Mind will tell us, relax. There is no need to do so much of hurry. No need to do so much of the intense bhakti. Aram se karo, dhire dhire karenge. Slow and steady wins the race. Mind will give all sorts of excuses not to do bhakti right now. Postpone it. Maya Devi acts in different ways for a devotee and for a non-devotee. For a non-devotee, material energy, Maya Devi says, don't take to Krishna consciousness. For a devotee, Maya Devi says, yes, you have to take to Krishna consciousness, but not now. Abhi nahi, baad mein. करना ही है, chanting ही करना है, करना ही है और कुछ है ही नहीं option. अरे हमको सब मालूम है, यही तो कर रहे हैं. This is the best thing, but not now. करेंगे आराम से, धीरे धीरे. So that's why we have to be convinced about this process, that by practice of bhakti, we will be free from our anarthas and we will attain the supreme perfection of our life. It all begins by hearing. Ekanta labham vachasonupumsa shushlok mauler gunavadamahu strutescha vidvadbhirupakritayam katha sudhayam upasamprayogam. Ekant labh, the only benefit of a person in this world is Shushloka Maule Gunavadamahu, only to hear about the glories, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, it is described here. And then another quotation comes by Rupa Goswami, where he is quoting Krishna. He is telling to Uddhava in Uddhava Gita that anyone who gives up Varnashram system and takes shelter of me, he is a first class person. So therefore, bhakti does not depend on birth. Bhakti does not depend on Varnashram system. And therefore, Prabhupada was very, very strong against this caste people, And then we'll discuss about one more verse which Srila Rupa Goswami quotes, that a devotee who is practicing bhakti, he becomes free from all the obligations. Devarshi bhutapta nirnam pitrinam na kinkaro naim ranicha rajan sarvatmanaya sharanam sharanyam tatom kundam pariritya kartum. So there it is described by Krishna to Uddhava that anyone who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord Mukunda, he is eligible to give up all kinds of obligations to the demigods, to sages, to living entities, the family members, everything. But this is the result which one gets by the practice of bhakti. Till the time we are in this material world, we should continue following and offering all our respects, because we have to set right standards for people in general. And when we and if we don't follow the rules and regulations, if we don't follow the scriptural injunctions, then people will blame Krishna conscious process, and they will say, just see these people, they have become devotees, they are not taking care of their family, they are not taking care of the society, all the obligations. So just to make our life peaceful, and just to set right standards, we have to do all these things. Just like Lord Krishna told Arjuna, if you, even if you are qualified to practice Jnana Yoga, still you have to practice Nishkam Karma Yoga to set right standard, right example for everyone. And then Rupa Goswami quotes this famous verse from Bhagavad Gita: Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So in this verse, Krishna is himself saying, give up all dharmas and just surrender to me alone. This verse is many times misunderstood. There was one of the uh, commentators on Bhagavad Gita. When he read this, he said that that this is not sarva dharman parityajya, this is sarva adharman parityajya. So Bhagavad Gita means this is actually, these are the quotations from Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So what Srila Rupa Goswami is doing, before telling the verse, he is telling from where it is. So Sri Bhagavad Gita Su means this is from Sri Bhagavad Gita. So somebody asked the question, that's why. So yeah, so these people, this commentator was saying this is Sarva Adharman Parityaja. How can this be Sarva Dharman? Because Krishna comes to establish the principles of religion. So how can he say Sarva Dharman Parityajya? So we discussed this in Bhagavad Gita also, that when Krishna is saying Sarva Dharman Parityajya, he is saying give up all dharmas apart from dharma of serving me. Because when you serve me, automatically all dharmas will be followed. So therefore, this is the process of devotional service. By practice of bhakti, one becomes free from the obligations of following all the varna ashrama duties. So therefore, Rupa Goswami quotes from another Samhita also, Agastya Samhita, where it is said that rituals are not needed for liberated persons. Similarly, rituals are not needed for devotees of Lord Ram. Another quotation he gives from 11th canto, where it is said that if by chance forbidden act is performed by a devotee, there is no need to perform rituals for atonement. The Supreme Lord residing in the heart of the devotee, he purifies and he corrects the accidental mistake performed by devotee. So this word accidental mistake is very important. We should not take this as a authority to commit sinful activities. Oh, Krishna will purify me, I am doing bhakti. Then it becomes an offense. It is a seventh offense to commit offenses, commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy names of the Lord. So this is telling about our accidental mistakes. By mistake, because of our conditionings, our anarthas, we perform some sinful activities. Krishna forgives that. Krishna purifies us. So therefore, Prabhupada also writes that it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the Supreme Personality of Godhead takes a special interest in his devotees. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, oh Arjuna, declare it boldly that my devotee will never perish. As Kaviraj Goswami also describes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sei bhakta dhanya jena chhade prabhur charan, Sei prabhu dhanya dena chhade nijajan. That Lord is great who never leaves his devotees, and that devotee is also great who never leaves the Lord. Durdaiva sevaka yadi yaye anya sthane, Sei prabhu dhanya tare chule dhariyane. And even if by chance a devotee goes away from the path of bhakti, but Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is so very active. He will bring the devotee back to the process of bhakti. Say Prabhu Dhanya. That Lord is very fortunate. That Lord is glorious. Chule dharyane. Chule means he catches his shikha and brings him back. So that is how the Lord is glorious. Lord never allows his devotees to go away from the path of Krishna consciousness. So these are the various quotations which describes that bhakti is totally independent and it is self-sufficient. It is not dependent on jnana, karma, ashtanga. It is free from any material impediment of birth and varnashram, rituals of purification. It is self-sufficient. So that is the fifth chapter of this Nectar of Devotion. Now we'll go to the sixth chapter. So in this sixth chapter, Prabhupada entitles this chapter as How to Discharge Devotional Service. So in the second chapter, we had discussed about the definition of sadhana bhakti. So sadhana bhakti means kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana vidha nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam ridi sadhyata. So kriti sadhya. So this process of sadhana bhakti is performed by using our senses. So engaging our senses in some service of Krishna. That is the basic practice of sadhana bhakti. Now, from this chapter onwards, Rupa Goswami describes exactly how to do that, how to engage our senses in service of Krishna. So basically in this chapter, Srila Rupa Goswami just enumerates the 64 ways of executing sadhana bhakti. Of these 64 ways, the first 20 items, they are of primary importance. And in these 20 items, first 10 are things to do, next 10 are things to avoid. So things to do are called pravritti, things to avoid, they are called nivritti. So there are so many things which are described, and the most essential of the first 10 items, Rupa Goswami says, is the taking shelter of spiritual master, Guru Padashraya. Because it is the Guru, it is the spiritual master, and spiritual master does not mean just Diksha Guru. Diksha Guru and Siksha Guru both. So Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, they introduce one to all the other items of sadhana. So whatever we know now in the process of Krishna consciousness, somebody told us, some devotee came and invited us for some program. Then we started going, and then we came to know who is Krishna, what is the process of devotional service, and how to practice sadhana bhakti, why we go to temple. We understood everything, but the process began by introduction of somebody. Somebody introduced us to the process of bhakti. That is a Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru. And without the introduction of Diksha Guru, we cannot learn this process of Krishna consciousness. And then 11 to 20 items, they describe the activities to be avoided. So because if we are not on one side, if we are practicing things which are right, at the same time, we have to avoid things which are not to be done. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada tells a story of this marriage party which was going on the other side of the river. So at the evening they came, they asked the boatman that we have to cross this river. The boatman said, okay, no problem. You just sleep tonight peacefully. Next morning you will be there. I'll take you. So everybody slept. And this boatman was working whole night. He was rowing the boat. Next morning, they got up and they found that they're at the same place. So then they realized what happened. So this boatman was sweating, working whole night. He said, I don't know. Then somebody realized that he forgot to remove the anchor. So these anchors are our sinful activities. So we have to avoid those sinful activities, and they are called nivritti. Then from 21st to 44 items, there are further processes of further items of devotional service which are described. And these processes include Shravanam, Kirtanam, and all these things in detail. And these things are meant to awaken our bhav. So in this 44 items, 21 to 59 items, they are the items of sadhana bhakti. And then from 60 to 64 items, they are the most powerful of all the 64 items of devotional service. So that will be described, and these items, they can awaken our bhav bhakti, and they will be described in more detail in chapter 12 and 13. So in this sixth chapter, Srila Rupa Goswami just enumerates all the 64 limbs, and then we'll begin the seventh chapter. So in this sixth chapter, Prabhupada writes that Srila Rupa Goswami, he states that his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, he has compiled Hari Bhakti Vilas for the guidance of all the Vaishnavas. And in that Hari Bhakti Vilas, he has mentioned so many rules and regulations. Some of them are prominent, some of them are less prominent. So Srila Rupa Goswami, in this 64 limbs, he has mentioned the most prominent of these uh, limbs of devotion service, which was described by Sanatan Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So these are just important things, not details. So Rupa Goswami is just giving the basic principles. So for example, Prabhupada writes that taking shelter of Guru is a principle. It has lots of details how to take shelter of Guru. So for that he has to follow the instructions, and he has to understand that one guru's instruction may be different from other guru, how he has to reconcile things. So all these things are not described by Rupa Goswami, details. So Rupa Goswami is just giving the principles in this 64 limbs. So now we'll go to the seventh chapter. So seventh chapter is entitled as Evidence Regarding Devotional Principles. So after listing the 64 limbs, now Srila Rupa Goswami illustrates and substantiates each of these limbs with various scriptural examples and evidences. So this seventh chapter describes the first 18 of the 64 items. So now the first is Guru Padashraya. Guru Padashraya means accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And this is a verse from 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, very famous verse, which says, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam. So the verse says, any person who seriously desires real happiness, if somebody wants happiness in his life, he must seek tasmad, therefore means if somebody wants real happiness in life, what he has to do? Guru prapadyeta, he has to take shelter of the bona fide spiritual master, jigyasu shreya uttamam, and he has to be eager, he should be inquisitive to know the knowledge, shreya uttamam. And then he describes the qualification of Guru also in this verse. What is the qualification of Guru? Shabde Parecha Nishnat. Nishnat means he is expert. So the Guru should be expert in all the scriptures, and he should be realized about the knowledge of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pare means realized knowledge. Shabde means knowledge of scriptures. Pare means the realized knowledge of the Supreme Lord by realization. So there Prabhupada writes that originally every living entity is unimaginably beautiful, intelligent, wealthy, and so strong that his spiritual body lives forever. So Prabhupada is writing, translating Satchit Anand here in secular terms: beautiful, intelligent, wealthy, and strong forever. But then Prabhupada writes, we give up this eternal blissful situation, and then we are entangled in this material world. But when we take shelter of the spiritual master, then the original condition of being the supremely beautiful, wealthy, intelligent, strong, and lover of God automatically arises. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is giving what is needed for a person to rise to the spiritual level. We have to take shelter of the spiritual master. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. And after taking shelter of spiritual master, what he has to do? He has to ask questions. Jigyasa. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. As Krishna also told to Arjuna, that Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya. Humble, submissive inquiries. There, Prabhupada writes in the purport, in this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. So we should ask right type of questions, because the questions also they purify people. Vasudeva katha prashna purusham stran punatihi vaktaram prachakam shrotram tadpada salilam yatha. So when somebody is asking a question in a class or after the class, three people get benefited. The person is asking, prachakam. Prachakam means who is asking. Shrotram. Vasudeva Katha Prashna Purusham Strin Punatihi Vakta. First of all, the Vakta, speaker who answers, he gets benefited. Then Prachakam, and who asks the question, he gets benefited. And Shrotram, those who hear the answer, they get benefited. So therefore, we have to ask right type of questions. One time, Radha Govind Maharaj, he was giving a class somewhere in the village. And in village, there is a belief that nobody should leave the katha in between. So the katha was going on for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours passed by. Then after 2 hours, Maharaj, he asked, so किसी को कुछ प्रश्न है? हिंदी में चल रही थी कथा. So one person raised his hand. He said, yes, क्या प्रश्न है आपको पूछिए. तो व्यक्ति बोलता है, महाराज एक ही प्रश्न है, कथा खत्म कब होगी? So that is not the question to be asked. We have to ask about ke ami, kene amar, jaritra patre, who am I? Why I am suffering? These are the questions to be asked from a bona fide spiritual master. So therefore, Prabhupada writes in the purport in this under this section that one should identify the guru also before surrendering. Who is that guru? The qualification of the spiritual master is also described. Shabde parecha nishnata. Nishnata means he should be expert in the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments. And he should be able to convince others also. So there, Prabhupada also writes, Prabhupada is not giving just a literal commentary. Prabhupada, when he is writing the commentaries on these books, he is giving a commentary based on the current scenario, where there are so many bogus gurus also. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, the purport is that one should not accept a spiritual master who is fool number one, and who has no direction of the scriptural injunctions, whose character is doubtful, who does not follow the principles of devotional service, who has not conquered the six senses. He is not a guru. Guru should be controller of all the senses. As Nectar of Instruction, first verse says, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udaropasta Vegam, Etan Vegan Yo Vishahet Dhiraha, Sarvam Apimam Prithvim Cha Shishyat. So only one who can control all his senses, he can become the spiritual master. Not somebody who has no character. He has a doubtful character. He does not have knowledge of the scriptures. He should not become the spiritual master. That is the first thing. Now, second, after taking shelter of the spiritual master, what he has to do? He has to take initiation. He has to take initiation from spiritual master and receive instructions from him. So this is another verse from Bhagavatam again. So this verse also says that Tatra Bhagavatan Dharman Sikshed Guru Atma Daivataha. So one should accept the spiritual master as one's life and soul, worshipable deity. So in one place it is described that fire, one should not deal with the fire and spiritual master in a loose way. You should be very, very careful to deal with the spiritual master. Give all respects. And every day we sing in our Guru Ashtaka prayers in Mangalarti, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. So therefore, we should serve the spiritual master with all respect with awe and reverence. So one time Prabhupada he went to one place, and all the devotees, they had arranged Rolls Royce for him. So one reporter, he came and asked, Swamiji, the sadhus, the sages, they are supposed to live simple, but we are seeing that your disciples have arranged Rolls Royce for you. What do you want to say about this? Prabhupada said, a spiritual master is a representative of God, and God should be given the best of things, and same should be given to the spiritual master, his representative also. So actually, this, my disciples, they should give car made up of gold, but they are just giving something made up of tin and rubber, and out of mercy I am accepting that. So reporter was speechless. He had never heard such reply. So spiritual master should be given all respect. He should be treated like like God. That was the conflict which happened in the beginning days of Krishna consciousness, because Prabhupada would always say spiritual master is servant of God, servant of God. And then at the time of initiation, one day before initiation, Prabhupada gave a class, and he said, so the disciples should serve spiritual master as God. So it created a big confusion. So till now, Swamiji was saying spiritual master is servant of God, and now he is saying we should serve him as God. What is this happening? So few devotees, they started talking about it. So there was Kirtananand Swami that time, Keith. So he was Keith at that time. So everybody, and he was very serious. So everybody went to Keith, and they told that you ask this doubt. We have a question. So Keith, went to Prabhupada and said, Swamiji, everybody is talking about what you said in today's class, that spiritual master should be served as same as God. He said, yes. Prabhupada then replied that actually spiritual master is not God, but because he is representing God, he deserves the same respect as God. So that is also described here, that one should accept spiritual master as life and soul, as a worshipable deity, and disciples should learn from him the process of pure devotional service by sincere service to him, and that by that pure bhakti the Lord will be satisfied. So therefore, when we follow the instructions of spiritual master, then Krishna becomes pleased, and we have to keep following the spiritual master even when we reach the stage of bhava and prema. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was given the mantra by Ishwara Puri, this Hare Krishna mantra, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he started chanting, he went into ecstasy, and he started manifesting all the symptoms of ecstasy. So in that symptoms of ecstasy also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was not happy, because he did not know what is happening. So he went to his spiritual master. He said, Kiba mantra dila gosai, kiba tara bal, japite japite mantra hoila pagal. What type of mantra you have given me? Just by chanting this mantra, I am becoming mad. So we have to take shelter of the spiritual masters. We have to take shelter of the senior devotees in all circumstances. So that is what is described here. And therefore, we have Prabhupada writes in one of the place that one has to take diksha and siksha also. So siksha is more important, because in current ISKCON scenario, generally every disciple may not be able to approach the guru. Earlier there were gurukuls, and there were small gurukuls, so every student would get a personal time of guru. But in current scenario, it is not possible. One guru may have thousands of disciples. So it may not be possible for a guru to cater to every disciple's needs, to talk to everyone. So therefore, in that circumstance, we have to take shelter of the senior disciples of the spiritual master and take instructions from them and follow them. And we have to give them the same respect. They are the Siksha Gurus. So therefore, we have to understand that in current ISKCON scenario, we cannot expect the same things which would happen in the previous Gurukul times. but we have to follow the parampara. So parampara is important. So therefore Krishna is stressing in this message in parampara. Evam parampara praptam. So the guru is a professor of the university, you know, and we will get graduation not from guru but from the university. So university is a sampradaya to which we are getting connected to. This should be very clear, you know, because in ISKCON, when in the previous times when there were some problems which happened to gurus fall down also have happened. People, they left practice of Krishna consciousness. We have to be real, very, very uh, careful and very, very clear about our ISKCON standards, our process of Krishna consciousness. That when we are getting connected to a parampara, we are not getting connected to Guru, we are getting connected through Guru to Krishna. So Guru is the person who takes us to Krishna. An example is given, just like there is a powerhouse, and from that powerhouse the electricity is coming, and we are getting electricity through various sockets. By chance, if one socket starts malfunctioning, we don't have to give up the whole process of getting the electricity. We have to plug into the another socket who is still which is still connected to the powerhouse. So therefore, in our ISKCON scenario, there are so many gurus, and in the past it has happened that people, devotees, they have left practice of bhakti because there are some problem which their guru faced. So as a ISKCON devotee, we should know that we are getting connected to a parampara through spiritual master. So therefore, we have to be having very clear understanding of who is a guru and how we have to give all respects to guru, and we should know that we are getting connected to a parampara through the spiritual master. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he has given us three things. He has given us a Gaudiya, he has connected us to Gaudiya parampara. Because of Prabhupada, we are connected to a bona fide parampara. Secondly, he has given us books. Thirdly, he has, and in those books, he has given all the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and that philosophy will dispel all our doubts. Thirdly, Srila Prabhupada has given us genuine sadhus, genuine devotees, and he has given us GBC, Governing Body Commission. So we are in a parampara, very safe hands when we are in this ISKCON society, because we are taken care of by GBCs, by our senior Vaishnavas, by the whole Guru Parampara, and Srila Prabhupada's books are also there. So therefore, Prabhupada writes in one of the purport in 4th canto that when one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is equal to his resolution is tantamount to seeing the supreme personality of Godhead, you know. So we have to have that firm determination that by the practice of bhakti, we will be able to serve Krishna personally. And it all begins with the service of spiritual master through the instructions, because personally, spiritual master may not be present always. So that is what we have to be very clear about. And then last thing we will discuss today is the third thing. What? So this, out of this 10 things, so first three are dealing with Guru. First we have to take shelter of Guru, take initiation from him, and then serve him with faith and confidence. So again, this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes that Acharyam mam vijaniyam navamanyet karechit samartya buddhya suyeta sarvadeva mayo guruhu. So it is described that one should know the Supreme Lord. Krishna is saying himself. One should know the Acharya as myself. One should know Guru as same as God. And na avamanyet. One should never disrespect him in any way. Na martya buddhya suyata. One should not consider spiritual master to be an ordinary man. because he is the representative of all the devtas. So therefore it is described Arche Vishnav Shiladhir Gurushu Narmati Vaishnave Jati Buddhi Sa Naraki Saha Matihi. So three things, if somebody is having conception of these three things in different ways, what is that three things? Arche Vishnu Shiladhir. If somebody thinks that deity is a stone, a deity of Krishna is stone. Gurushu Narmati. If somebody thinks spiritual master to be an ordinary mortal human being, Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. If somebody thinks that spirit, all these Vaishnavas, oh, he is a Vaishnava from America, he is a Vaishnava from Africa, he is from China, he is from this part of the country, he is a Bengali Vaishnava, he is a South Indian Vaishnava, he is a North Indian Vaishnava. This is a Jati Buddhi, that is the hellish mentality. So therefore, here it is described that one should serve the spiritual master with full faith and confidence. Shvetashvatar Upanishad Prabhupada quotes where it is also written, Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve yatha gurau tasyaita kathita hi artha prakashante mahatmanah. It is described that only those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master, they can understand all the imports of the Vedic knowledge. So that is how it is described that we should render service to the spiritual master, and in this scenario we have to render service to the representatives of the spiritual masters also. And we have seen that there are so many disciples of Prabhupada who have not seen Prabhupada. One time Niranjan Maharaj, he was asked that how many times have you met Srila Prabhupada? And he did like this zero. He never met Prabhupada. But just see what type of service he is doing. He is doing tremendous service, tremendous preaching activity. So we can connect to Prabhupada, we can experience Prabhupada through the instructions of Prabhupada. So therefore, Shruta Kirti Prabhu, who just departed few months, some days back. So he was saying once that there are 6 levels of introduction to Krishna consciousness. When we come to Krishna consciousness and as an outsider, first, any outsider, when he comes in touch with devotees, first level is, what is Krishna consciousness? Karte kya hai? What is this ISKCON people? What are they doing? And then he starts associating with people, and then he goes to second level. Second is, I like Krishna consciousness. ये लोग अच्छे लोग हैं, अच्छा काम करते हैं, they are good people, they are helping, they are living a good life. Then after coming close, he goes to a third level. I trust Krishna consciousness, I trust these people are giving right philosophy, these people are giving good knowledge. And then he goes to the fourth level. I follow Krishna consciousness. Then we become the follower of Krishna consciousness. We start practicing bhakti, we start chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, start following the principles, and then we rise to a fifth level. The fifth level is, my life is Krishna consciousness. So somebody may say, what is above that? Above that is, my mission is Krishna consciousness. I have to give this knowledge to others. So everything starts with, what is Krishna consciousness? ये क्या करते हैं लोग? Then slowly we rise to, my life is Krishna consciousness. I want to attain Krishna, but even higher than that is, I want to give Krishna to others. I want to preach. One time there was one person who would come to a ISKCON temple every night after Shayan Darshan, and the pujari, he would call him. Every day he would call him and he would give him some sweet rice, and he would be very happy. After many months, he thought, Arey, yaar, every day I'm coming and he is giving sweet rice, so better to join. Join karenge to aur milega. So he joined, and then first day when he joined, that night again that devotee called him. He said, wow, chal raha hai, this is continuing. He called him, he gave that sweet rice, and he told that you can see that young person, new person, you give that the sweet rice to that. And then he realized, now I have to grow to the second level. I have to start preaching now. So this is about serving spiritual master, taking shelter of gurus, and our ISKCON scenario. We'll stop here and we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, they can ask. What's the difference between taking shelter of bona fide spiritual master and accepting initiation? First and second principle we just saw. Yeah. So first, taking shelter means you just accept that now I want to surrender to him. That is a beginning. That is a beginning of getting connected to a bona fide parampara. That is the taking shelter. That means I am ready to follow the instructions. And then after we sufficiently spend time, then we want to get connected to the spiritual master in a formal way through the process of initiation. So initiation is just a formal principle by which we connect ourselves to the parampara. And by that initiation, we make our determination all the more strong. The process remains the same, but the process of initiation makes our determination all the more strong. Our connection to the parampara becomes all the more dedicated. So that is the difference. Okay. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai.